Hello. So we are joined here on the Puncher's Chance channel once again with Daniel Francis from Vote Boxing, of course, the matchmaker on last Saturday's Brangwyn Hall card. First of all, Daniel, what did you think of the card as a whole? Now that it's obviously ended, you've seen all the fights, you've had a bit of time to think about it. What was your thoughts on the whole thing?
Yeah, thank you for having me on, guys. I do appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, the looking back at the card, after the night and obviously the feedback and stuff that we've had from the fans, I think it was a card that was put on with a lot of good, 50-50 fights. For the fan favorite fights, they were all entertaining fights. The females sort of stole the show. At the end of the night as well. So I think overall it was a brilliant card and good value for money for the fans who are paying and attending the show, and it's a good representation of what talent we have got in the Welsh boxing pool coming up and coming through the small hall shows.
So I mean, we gave you the props we promised you we would on the podcast on Monday, like we said we would, and I thought what we could do is we'll
Yeah.
go through each individual fight one by one and have a little chat about each one and what you thought of it and if there's anything sort of going forward from each fight. So obviously the first fight was Aaron Bird, Ben Thomas. Obviously Aaron Bird 4-0 now got the win on that one.
Yeah.
What did you make of his performance? Was that kind of what you expected from him, or maybe he was performed better than you expected?
To be honest with you, you know what, Aaron fought on our last card in the Brangwyn Hall in November, and he fought Dylan Courtney, and he had a good performance there. And we have to try and look for some sort of step up into a six rounder to prepare him for his should be in June now a light heavyweight title contest, Welsh light heavyweight title contest against Jake Anthony. As long as Jake Anthony comes through his bout on our Connectley show in April. But I got to give it to Aaron. He was fantastic on the night. To be honest with you, his jab was unbelievable. That wasn't there in the Dylan Courtney fight, but against Ben Thomas, he was popping that jab out. It was strong. It was spiteful. And, he warmed into the fight, Aaron did. Ben gave him a good test. He was still throwing back at him, but Aaron warmed into the fight. He started getting his combinations off in round 3 to 6. And I think that's what stepped him away and took him away in the fight. You guys were there. You guys were right by ringside. You can see, Aaron had a little cut. That's something else he's had to deal with. It wasn't a major cut. It didn't cause him too many problems. But I suppose you can call it something that he's ticked off, after having to maneuver around with a cut in the ring against such a tough opponent like Ben Thomas. Ben Thomas is a seasoned journeyman. He knocked out his last opponent in round 2, by a technical knockout before coming into this fight with Aaron. So it wasn't no easy pushover fight for Aaron putting his title shot on the line,
And then Jake Anthony, obviously you
Yeah.
mentioned is the sorry, you go there.
I was just gonna say, yeah. I spoke to Aaron obviously after his fight, and he was, like you said, he was really good with the jab. He controlled the ring, I thought, quite well, and good defensively as well. I thought he was knew when to sort of cover up and take shots when Ben was throwing them. One thing I spoke to him about was maybe at certain points in the fight, you could see he might have hurt Ben with a couple of shots, but was a bit hesitant in terms of maybe sticking it on him a bit more. Do you think that's something like he could probably focus? I think he said it himself when me and Sam spoke to him. It's maybe something he could learn a bit more in the future, but it was a very good performance from him. And like we said, Ben has got a bit of power behind his punches.
Yeah.
And at the end of it only takes that one punch to land for the fight to completely flip.
Yeah, it could be the case of Aaron was landing nice power punches, power combinations in against Ben. But as you said, when he did, you could see that he got him hurt. They were talking. Ben was talking to him in the ring as well. Trying to bring him into the center of the ring and ask him to stand and fight. But Aaron was being smart and he was using his jab and moving around. But it could be a case of it could have been in the back of Aaron's mind that if he did go in and Ben caught him with one, that could have been his title fight opportunities over. So that what could have held it back a little bit. But I can see Aaron now. He's got time now to work on things with his coaches. Coming up. He's not fighting now for 3 and a bit months because June the 8th is the Connectley card. So he'd be looking at fighting there for the title as long as Jake Anthony comes through his fight on April, which no doubt I believe he will.
And then in terms of a clash, that Jake Aaron Bird, is that what does that look like? I don't necessarily know Jake that well as a fighter or just as two fighters. What does that matchup kind of look like?
You got Jake should be a Welsh champion already. I'm not gonna lie. He fought Morgan Jones. He dropped Morgan Jones numerous times. This is my own personal opinion, but to me, on the cards, Jake won that fight, but obviously didn't get the decision, and on the record, he lost. So we move on from that. But Jake's got some power in his hands. He's a good boxer as well, but he can bang. So it's gonna be a bit of a boxer, power puncher against a slick boxer like Aaron. And if Aaron can throw that jab out all night, like he was with the spite and the power, it could be a long night for Jake. Or if Jake catches Aaron, it could be an early night. It is a 50-50 fight. I'm not gonna beat around the bush for that. It is a great 50-50 fight, and it's a great advocate for Welsh boxing and the light heavyweight Welsh title.
And then obviously the next fight, Willie Gilhaney, one of Enzo Macronelli's fighters.
Yeah.
Impressive performance from him, I thought. It was really good. And the one thing that struck me was he mentioned he was wanting to drop down to middleweight, I think he said to me. Obviously, he's dropped down quite a lot of weight already. Have you got any potential matchups for Willie in the future with that new weight class in mind? Or is it just about, maybe seeing what he can do where he is?
Yeah, so Willie, he's a fantastic. Can't take anything away from him. Willie's a fantastic boxer. He's got power in his hand. He can box. He's slick. He's got a good jab. But he does look to go for the knockout. And he has got that power in his hands to do that. He fought Steve Davis in his debut, which he did win by knockout in the 4th round. And then he had a totally different opponent in Josh Cook in this fight. It's a totally different kettle of fish. Steve Davis was coming forward, trying to make a fight of it, and Josh was experienced. Josh is an experienced away cornerman. And he moves and he sticks to the jab and he boxes. So it's a totally different fight for Willie, but I think a very important fight at this stage of his career. It's only his 2nd fight. It's a learning fight for him. He's got the rounds in, and you are right. Yeah, he is looking to move down to middleweight, and I think it'll be good for him because start moving down slowly down to middleweight, and then potentially for titles. Then you could be looking at super welter because the weight he's done so well to come from. He ballooned up, he left boxing, now he's come back, and now he's in tremendous shape. And we're just going to push forward with him on the April show. Another 4-rounder, then hopefully step it up then to a 6-rounder, and then who knows? Then by the end of the year, we'll be looking at Welsh title fights if possible. But we are currently looking at opponents for Willie for April, and before long they'll be all signed off, and they'll be on BoxRec for everybody to see who he's boxing.
Yeah, it was a really impressive performance from him, and like I said, he's come through a lot. I think he said he dropped 4 stone.
Yeah,
to get back in the ring. That's like a massive achievement in itself. He was like, you could see the skill level as well. He was a very good boxer. When we were speaking to him earlier in the day, he said he wanted to get the knockout. He was looking for another early finish. I think he was a bit disappointed he didn't get that.
Yeah.
But like you said, Josh Cook is experienced, and he was very hard to pin down on the night. His movement was quite good. And like you said, it's a good learning experience for him to probably get that bit of practice in, where you're not always going to have fighters that are going to want to stand there and just trade with you. Sometimes you've got to go and hunt them down if you want those sort of stoppage wins.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to learn these different situations within fight. It's pointless. He's not going to learn anything by going in and getting rid of people early in every single fight. Because when it comes to the championship rounds, or when he starts fighting big, more difficult opponents, or people who have got a more positive record, it's going to be a different kettle of fish. So if he goes through each scenario now and does the rounds and learns different things each time he fights, then he's going to set him up in great stead for when he goes forward for them bigger fights. Because Willie's ambitious. He's when he was in the amateurs, he won multiple Welsh national titles. He's got about 4 or 5 Welsh vests, if not 6, I think. So he's got the pedigree there. I know it was a long time ago, and he's been out the ring a while, but he's come straight back into it. And he's taken it to it like a duck to water, and he's going to push on now for big honours going forward.
I mean, the next fight on the card, Josh Melly versus Casey Bradnam. I think up until the last fight, I would have said that was probably fight of the night. Obviously, we will get into the last fight a little bit later, but how impressive was Josh after it's been a long time coming for him, that pro debut.
Yeah.
And it was a tricky opponent. I mean, Casey, I was saying on the podcast, tried every trick in the book, showed him every little sort of dirty trick you can in the ring. and made it a really tough fight for him. How impressed were you with Josh and or Casey in that fight?
It's once again, you don't get much more learning than having to come back from a knockdown in your debut. He's going to stand him in good stead going forward. But to me, as you said, that was fight of the night up until the last fight, which we'll get on to later on. But what a fight! They were both back and forth. They were both throwing big punches. They were both throwing exchanges on the ropes. They were boxing. It wasn't a hug fest. They were going for it. It's a learning fight for Josh. It's his debut. He's, as he said when he came out the ring, he said he was making silly mistakes. But Casey's very, very experienced, and Casey can box and he can fight. It was a tough test on his debut, but he had the decision at the end with the ref. But it has been a bit of news for you. The rematch has been made. They both wanted the rematch after this fight. It was literally made as soon as they both come outside the ring. So the rematch is on. Casey's coming back down here April the 20th in Llanelli, and we'll get to see it again.
Yeah, I think Josh must have been one of my favourite people we met Saturday. I think as soon as we walked through the door at 12:30, he was shadow boxing. I think he was the first person we seen, and then he just didn't stop all day. He was obviously in that fight, tough fight. He done well, especially considering it's 4 rounds. Your first fight to get knocked down. It is very hard in a 4-round fight to be knocked down and come away with a win.
It could have gone either way.
Performance.
The fight could have gone either way, to be honest. I think a draw would have been a fair decision as well. But you can't change the referee's choice. And let's be honest, 4 rounds, as you said, is hard. But when there's only one judge and what their opinion is, sometimes it can be even harder. It's down to them one pair of eyes that are in the ring that's watching you. You haven't got the luxury of having the 3 judges at ringside who can see it from all different angles. It's just that one judge in the in the middle, which is the ref, and what he sees goes.
Yeah, and to be fair to him, he was full of energy even after the fight. He was still bouncing about afterwards.
With all his
boxing, for the rest of the night. I thought he was gonna get back in it again, to be honest.
Yeah. No, he was straight on to me. Was at the rematch to be made, and no, we done it, so it's done. So one thing I would say, guys, if people are going to come down to the Llanelli show, that's one fight to definitely look out for, because I think it's going to be another barnstormer, to be honest with you.
And then obviously we had Ben and Crocker, who sort of on paper going into the night was probably the biggest name and probably the fighter who's the most advanced in their career in terms of the home fighters. He said it was a bit of an off night for him and maybe overlooked his opponent a little bit, but saying that he won every round by a pretty comfortable margin. Just how impressive was Ben in that fight? And obviously, how high is the ceiling for someone like him?
Ben's a fantastic fighter, that hasn't had the opportunities that he should have had by now. He's 12-0 now. Ben is trained by Gary and managed by Gary, and that's a great stable up there with Gary Lockett, one of the best and most well-respected guys within Welsh boxing and boxing across the world. He's had many champions and many people behind him, and Ben is another one that could be one of them champions. He's got a fantastic jab. He can box. He can move. And maybe, like you said, he may have overlooked him a little bit, but he done the job again. He got 6 valuable rounds in. Going forward, Ben is looking to move to a different weight class as well now, with a big opportunity on the line, which we can talk about later on. But Ben done the job, and that's all that matters. When you've got these big potential things on the horizon, you've got to make sure you don't overlook them, and you get the job done, and then you can move on to the exciting stuff that's coming.
Yeah, you talked there about him probably not getting the opportunities he probably should have had. And especially, I think, with me and Sam watching him, we could see the skill level of him. Do you think the rest of 2024 now is an opportunity for him to kick on and really make a name for himself in terms of pushing him, not just probably in Welsh boxing, but across Britain?
Oh yeah, 100%. And that's already happening. And which I'll discuss a little bit later on in the interview with you. But the thing is, Ben should have had his Welsh title shot by now. And that's just me, my opinion. It should have happened. We should have had a great fight between him and Lloyd Remain, but that hasn't happened now. And there's other stuff happening for Ben now that could propel him straight past Welsh title level. And that's what may happen. But Ben is probably one of the going to be one of the champions that are going to come out of Wales next, you know, because we're losing a lot of champions. No, Liam Williams is retiring now, you know, and people like that, you know, potentially. And so we got Joe Cordino at the minute, Brandon Scott is coming through, you know, Ben Crocker could be one of the next crops that's coming through the sport of Welsh boxing.
And then, I mean, the next fight, it was kind of, at one point, me and Ben, it almost felt like everything was going right in terms of from a Welsh point of view. And then obviously Morgan McIntosh unfortunately didn't get the win on the night. It's probably a fair result, I think, when you look at the fight. And his opponent, his name's missed me now, but you know, was a really tough opponent. Had 142 fights, I think it was.
Jordan
how
Branham.
disappointed will Morgan be with that performance? And where does he go from here? Obviously, with the starting with a loss on his career.
You know, Morgan. You know, Morgan's a fantastic boxer. You know, Morgan is. He's a skilled, talented, unbelievable boxer, and we saw that on the night. You know, he was throwing jabs, he was throwing combinations, he was throwing punches. But the thing is, as you said with Jordan Granham, it depends what Jordan Granham comes. If Jordan Granham wants to turn it on, you know, he's a very, very dangerous fighter. If the Jordan Granham comes who wants to just get the rounds in and set into journeyman mode, he will do that. But what happened that night is Jordan Granham, the one who wants to turn it on and wants to fight, turned up, and it made it a tough night for Morgan. You know, but what Morgan needs to do now is learn from this, push on, because he's very, very talented, and many fighters have lost their first fight, and it doesn't define you. You know, if you want to look at it, Bernard Hopkins lost his first ever fight, and look what he went on to do in the sport. One of the greatest to ever put on a pair of gloves. You know, that fight doesn't define Morgan. Morgan is going to move on. He's going to come back. He's going to get win after win after win, and you're going to see him fighting for big titles down the line. You know, he's that talented. But you know, we just move on. The fight's happened. It's done. It's a learning experience from him. He's going to learn a lot from that fight. You know, and he's going to come back and he's going to be stronger than ever. You know, he's going to come back at a different weight, and and we're going to push him forward and get him, and he'll be straight back out on the April show, and he'll be out again in June. So before we turn around, that loss will be a distant memory, and he'll have 2 wins on the bounce. You know.
Yeah, it was. Morgan was another one we spoke to during the weigh-in, and you could see how excited he was to get in the ring. Obviously, with his brother there as well, who won his Welsh title back in November. But
they're a super talented family. You know, his brother's Welsh champion, Morgan. You know, they've done numerous stuff in the amateurs, all of them. You know, and they're a genuine nice family as well. You know, and that's why it's just about now guiding and getting him at the right weight and moving him forward from April to. So this is in the distant past.
Yeah, and like we said, losing your first fight isn't the be all and end all. I think a lot of people look at boxing sometimes, and it's sort of the Floyd Mayweather effect in it. People are so used to they think the best fighters don't lose fights, whereas sometimes on some nights it does happen. It doesn't
of course
necessarily mean that you're a bad fighter, and I think he'll learn from that fight against, like you said, Jordan Granham, very experienced, very tough fighter, and he'll definitely kick on, and I think we'll definitely see some good things from him.
Oh, 100%. You know, Morgan, that's not the last you see of Morgan. You know, Morgan will be back April, and all he'll be seeing then is win. He'll build his wins up now, moving forward at the correct weight, and then who knows where he'll go, you know. But that same for all these Welsh boxers at the minute. The sky's the limit, you know.
And then someone else who won't be defined by a loss, Victoria Perkins, lost her fight to Lindsay Bushinsky. We actually chatted to Tony on Monday, and he said that he felt Victoria didn't really leave first gear. And if the Victoria that turned up on Saturday had fought Jamie, who obviously fought on the main on the final fight, she would have lost that fight as well. So I think from their point of view, it was just an off night performance wise. But how good is Victoria as a fighter? Because she didn't really show herself on that night, but you had some really top things to say about her, you know, leading into the fight.
Yeah, of course. Victoria, for people who don't know, Victoria Perkins, she's only young, you know, I think she's 18 or 19, you know, and she's coming from the sport of kickboxing, where she has done numerous things, you know, world titles, multiple world titles at different weights, you know, European titles, British titles, you know, amount of belts she's got is more than most people will ever have in their life, you know, but she's been there and done it all in kickboxing. She's moved into boxing, you know, she had a tough debut. She got through that. But I totally agree with you. on the fight on Saturday night. It was as if she was stuck in first, maybe second gear. No more than that. You know, there was nothing going faster than that, apart from the last round, where she did start to step it up. But by that point, it was too late. She was in with a very, very experienced fighter in Lindsay. You know, Lindsay's an area champion. You know, she's not just somebody who's coming on the road to get to earn a living, or to help out and teach these fighters coming through. She's actually there to make a name for herself and make a statement, and which she has done, you know. And she's won this fight now, and Lindsay's pushed on now. She's fighting for a Commonwealth title, you know. So, you know, that's massive for Lindsay. But as you said, that fight will not define Victoria. Victoria will come back. She will work. She's got a great coach in Tony. You know, she's managed by the Nielsen's. You know, they're doing big things in boxing now as well. You know, I spoke to Kyle after as well, because he was at the show. You know, and we both agreed, as you said, she didn't come out of first, second gear. You know, so that's what they got to do. But a lot of boxers the same, aren't they? You know, a lot of boxers start fight slow. But the only issue you've got when you're only fighting 6 2-minute rounds, you haven't got that time really to start slow. You know, you've got to be straight out the blocks, and we've seen that many a times within women's boxing. You've got to be straight out the blocks, otherwise you're playing catch up with yourself. You know.
Yeah, I think with especially like you said, the women's fights with the 2-minute rounds, they tend to be. I think with the 2-minute rounds, it can make it more exciting at times, because they've got to get their work done and get it done quickly. And yeah, I think on the night she showed definite spells of her talent.
100%.
Like you said, against someone like Lindsay, who's been in, like recently she was in the ring with Karis Hartenstall, who we've heard a lot of over recent months, and took her to a points decision. Now she's obviously, like we said, going towards Commonwealth title fight. Victoria taking her on that second fight, I don't think it was the sort of fight that you could be laid back in. I think she needed to go for it a bit more.
Yeah, she needed to come out. You know, you need to come out fight, as you said. It's very short amount of time you've got. You know, that's why they say a lot of people say that the female fights are a lot more exciting, because they've literally got to go for it. You've got that 2 minutes. By the time you start watching it, I was speaking to Lindsay before the fight in the away dressing room, and she said, you know, by the time you start, it's over. You know, the round's over, because it just seems to go so quickly. But you know, it was a great fight anyway. You know, and it doesn't define a loss. Doesn't define you. You know, you just come back and move forward. No, Lindsay moves on to a title shot, and Victoria goes again on the Nielsen show on April the 27th.
And then a fight that didn't start slow for either fighter, and every round afterwards seemed to almost felt like it was getting quicker. Ashley Johnson versus Jamilet Vallejos. Did you expect that from her, from the fight from the South American? Do you expect her to come with that kind of pace, or was that a surprise even to yourself?
Not at first, but I watched her against Ellie Helliwell the week before, and she came and she was putting it to Ellie, you know. And I thought, right, okay, we could be in for a good fight here, a good testing fight, which will test Ashley, which I think is what she needs at this point, you know. And it didn't disappoint, did it? Let's be honest. It stole the show at the end of the night. You know, up until that point, as we said, Joss Melly versus Casey Bradman was fight of the night. But by the time that fight had finished, I think that pipped it for me, and it was fight of the night. You know.
Yeah, it was a very good fight, that one. And like you said with Ashley, another one that's come from a kickboxing background.
Yeah.
To take that fight in her second ever pro fight. She's obviously trained as well with Enzo Macronelli, who we spoke to after the fight. And he said, like, in terms of your second pro fight, you're not going to get many tougher than someone that stood there and really went toe-to-toe with her for the whole 6 rounds.
Yeah, you know, you were there on the night. You could see, you know, they were both exchanging, you know, back and forth. There was no breaks. But I just think what pipped it in the end is that Shaletta was going more to the body, which wasn't as clean. But when Ashley was throwing punches, you know, the 1-2 combinations, it was knocking Shaletta's head back. And I think that they were the scoring shots then, you know, because they were a lot more cleaner, and you could see the physical movement of the head. But I heard Enzo say himself in the corner, you know, that it's on the last round. And they both just went hell for leather in the last round. And Ashley, I think Ashley won the fight by 2 rounds, I think, didn't she? I think it was 58-56, is it? I think it was. The ref called it. But, you know, and it was a fair decision, you know, and once again, another fantastic learning fight for Ashley, that she's only going to take that experience going forward to push her. Because as we know in women's boxing, you could be one fight away from a title shot or an eliminator, because the divisions aren't as stacked as the men's division. So that fight is only going to stand her in good stead when it comes to fighting for titles down the line.
Just on a quick note, and sort of back to, because we were chatting to Tony on Monday, Jordan Withers was supposed to fight on the card, and obviously that fight didn't happen. Is that right? It was that fight it was meant to happen?
Yeah,
wasn't
Jordan was supposed to be in the card. Yeah,
so
that's right. Yeah.
Tony's thinking was that Jordan needs to stop putting things on social media because it doesn't make people want to fight him anymore. But whether that's obviously true or not, Jordan's unbelievably talented from everything we've heard. Was it a disappointment that he wasn't on the card, and maybe going forward, how would we like to see Jordan in terms of in Welsh boxing, because he's obviously got the talent?
Yeah, of course. I've known Jordan since he was little, and I've known the whole family. I've done kickboxing with the whole family for years. That's because that's where my background is. But Jordan's an exceptionally talented kid. He's still young again. He's got a lot of years left in the sport. He's in a great gym. Gavin Gwynn has helped him as well, and there's not much more determined and dedicated than Gavin in the sport. What he's done and the achievements that he's made, and and Jordan looks up to Gavin, and that's a great role model to have. It was a disappointment. People were turning the fight down, but that's the sport of boxing. Unfortunately, we're in that sport. And people don't want to be potentially coming up against him, who is very, very skillful. But Jordan's now on the obviously March 2nd card for Mo Pryor, and then hopefully we can look to get him out potentially maybe on the April show, or if not the June show, to give him that opportunity back in Wales. Jordan's going to go very, very far. He's very, very skillful. He's very, very talented. He's got all the skills, as they say, to pay the bills. As long as he can keep himself dedicated and moving forward, Welsh titles, Celtic titles, international titles, they'll all come in time, but it's just getting that opportunity and finding people who want to get in the ring with Jordan, because he is very, very talented.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a fighter we're looking forward to watching live. With the chat we had with Tony and some of the boys that were down the gym Monday, they all seemed to be, it was the name I think everyone was coming up with was Jordan, in terms of who to look out for. And I think the same thing from everyone was he just needs to get his head down, I think, and sort of knuckle down and focus on the boxing.
Yeah, that's it. And Gavin speaks very highly of him. And Gavin, as I said to you earlier on in this conversation, Gavin is fantastic. No one's more determined and dedicated than Gavin. And look what he's gone on to do. So if Jordan can just emulate some of that determination, even Gavin says he's going to be a world champion, and I believe that as well. Jordan could be a world champion if he gets it right, and he knuckles down and pushes on with the sport.
So Harry, our other podcast guest, podcast host, answers an interesting question. He's asked us if we could pick out one fighter from the event to sort of recommend people to keep an eye on for their career. And obviously, you can't necessarily be going picking around favourites as such as the matchmaker. But if you could pick out one name that you think people need to keep an eye out for going forward, what one name would that be?
You can look at it many different ways on that night. And that's not just sitting on the fence. There is not just that one name. I still say look out for Morgan. Morgan's a fantastic fighter. This what happened on Saturday night is not going to define Morgan McIntosh. Morgan McIntosh will come back stronger than he's ever been, more determined than he was ever been, and probably more dangerous than he was ever going to be. Because of what's happened. You've got Willie. Fantastic fighter. Going to go far as long as he sticks dedicated and continues doing what he's doing. You've got Ashley. Ashley could go very, very far in the women's division if she carries on doing what she's doing and listens to what Enzo is telling her and progresses as the way she's progressing. Look at Victoria. Victoria's coming off a loss. What does she do next? She's out again April 27th, turn it all around. If Victoria steps up the gears, who knows what Victoria is going to go on to do? It's women's boxing. It's, as we said earlier on, you're literally one fight away from a title shot. Look at Lindsay. She lost a fight. She's won a fight. She's not fighting for a Commonwealth title. It's literally can turn around that quickly. And then you've got the likes of Aaron. Who's going to win that fight? Aaron Jake. It's a 50-50 fight. Who's going to push on? Where's the other person going to go? They're going to move up. They're going to move down. There's lots and lots of things there. Josh Melly. We've got the rematch on on April the 20th against Casey Bradnam. Some people think it was a draw. Some people think Josh won. Casey believes he won. And you were there on the night. You could probably look at all arguments and think, yeah, okay, that's a possibility. But it makes that rematch on April the 20th a lot more exciting. A lot more people are going to come there now and go think, right, yeah, look at that show in the Brangwyn Hall. Look at the fights that were on there. They were all 50-50 contests. They were fan favourites. They were entertaining. Let's be honest, guys, it wasn't a boring fight on that night, was there, to be fair? Fans got their money worth. When the fights were 50-50 chances, people were able to get in there and see what small hall boxing was about. That's the heart of boxing is, That the goal is obviously to be on the big shows. You've got Top Tier coming through now, which is basically, I believe, the bridge from literally just down from Sky Sports Boxer, Matchroom and things. That shows that the stuff that Johnny Clark is doing is unbelievable, But the heart of boxing is this small hall shows. This is where your next British champion, Commonwealth champion, European champion, world champions are all going to come from. And I think we have got a fantastic pool, a sleeping pool then, because not many people look at Welsh boxing as a big thing, but I think we can turn it into something big. Get that Welsh titles on shows. There's numerous Welsh titles that are vacant. They shouldn't be. English titles are fought for all the time. Celtic titles are fought for a lot more than Welsh titles are. We should be having these Welsh titles on the show. So I think every single fighter on that show can go and do something in the sport of boxing.
Yeah, I think, like you said there with the Welsh titles, it's not looked at as favourably as the English titles, and it's talked about so much with English titles. You see the English fighters, how much it means to them to get that English title, and they like to go the sort of historic route of building up from there. Do you think that's something with the Welsh title you and others involved in sort of Welsh boxing want to get involved in these cards more, and sort of, because we've seen a lot of the titles are vacant at the moment, do you want to try and fill out everyone and then start really building?
Yeah, of course. Our aim is by the end of the year to have at least 2 Welsh title fights on the show in November that we got planned. That's the plan. We've got 1 Welsh title fight that's definitely happening in June. Why can't we add another one? It's just about getting them. Their Welsh shows should have Welsh title fights, and I even think when the big promoters come to Cardiff, or when they, like Eddie comes, or Ben Shalom comes with Boxer, or Frank comes with Queensbury, why can't there be a Welsh title fight on every one of them shows as well? Expose the talent that we've got in Wales. They don't get given the opportunities that they should be getting. If you come into Wales, I think you should have a Welsh title fight, whether it's on the undercard or it's on the main card, but it still should be on a big platform.
Yeah, that's definitely right. Hopefully, we will see a lot more Welsh title opportunities in the future, and I think the start of 2024 now we'll see a big rise in Welsh boxing.
Oh yeah, definitely 100%. And going on to that, I spoke to you earlier on about Top Tier and Ben Crocker. Ben Crocker's now stepping up. We've got the Top Tier show that I work with Johnny Clark on. I match with Johnny on these shows. And Top Tier is probably, in my eyes at the moment, the next level. The stuff that he puts on a small hall show stage, but it's not a small hall show. He does the media days, he does the press conference, he does the weigh-ins, he does the night. You'd think you're at a top tier show, as he calls it. It is top tier. And in my eyes, he's probably the next promotion to get one of these big TV deals. Whether he gets Sky Sports or a different channel or takes over a different platform. But he's not far from getting one of them. And Ben Crocker's got his opportunity. He's stepping out of regional boxing. He's got an opportunity to fight a 16-0-2. So he's got 16 wins, 2 draws. Stelios Papalopoulos, a Greek fighter, and Ben's putting it all in line, for a shot at a potential title on the next show, a big title as well, So and that's at a new weight as well. And I know and Ben's now got his opportunity that he's wanted, And I think I saw today that he's in camp already. He only fought on Saturday and he's already back in camp and he's ready to go for this big opportunity coming up on April the 27th in the Brentwood Centre in Essex, And that's exactly where Lindsay's going as well. Brentwood Centre in Essex, it's a fantastic opportunity for all these fighters to be on a show, and fair play to Johnny Clark. He gives them these opportunities to experience what it's like to be on a show. I know it's not the same magnitude, but it gives them the experience of having a media day, you know, a press day, doing all these interviews, you know, having the camera in your face, the lights, everything else, you know, the day before weigh-ins, the fight day itself, you know, having a undercard and a main event card, you know, it gives them all that opportunities to be seen, and it gives the opportunities for the fans who can't make it to watch it because it's on Sky as well, you know, channel 186, I believe. You know, it's streamed on there, and it also gets it streamed by different streaming platforms like Boxing Social, etc. on the show, you know.
And obviously that's, you know, end of April. But you know, yourself, you've got at the end of April as well that card in Llanelli of obviously a number of the fights and fighters you've mentioned already. And I think a number of the fighters were due to fight on that, obviously going into the weekend. But what does that card look like, you know, within as much as you can obviously say at the moment? What's that card look like?
The card's on Boxrec if people want to have a look. You know, the opponents aren't named yet, but the people that are going to be on there are very similar to the people who are on the show on Saturday night just gone. You know, we're going to have Willie Gahaney's fighting there, but obviously at a new weight now at middleweight. Ashley's going to be on there. Josh Melly's going to be on there. Morgan McIntosh is going to be on there. Jake Anthony, who you guys haven't seen, you know, because Jake is fighting in a 6-rounder to set up the light heavyweight title fight against Aaron Bird, and you've also got Josh Kagan on there as well, the cruiserweight. You know, and Angelo Dragoni is going to be on there as well in the 6-rounder. You know, Angelo's been in many tough fights, but Angelo Dragoni is going to be on there in his hometown as well in a 6-round contest on April the 20th. You know, a lot of the fights are matched. They will be put on Boxrec soon. You know, another night of 50-50 fights again. That's what we like to make. With ourselves here at Shadow Promotions, you know, that's what we try to do with Richie. It's all about 50-50 fights and giving fan fights and entertainment for the fans and value for money. This show is going to be a little bit different. This show is going to be a dinner show. You know, it's going to be tables as well as seating. It's got the opportunity to have food on the night as well. But it's still going to be another great venue. I think Llanelli, you know, we've had a show there before. You know, it's a lot closer, a little bit smaller than the Brangwyn Hall. But, you know, still another fantastic night of showcasing the talent we've got in Welsh boxing.
Yeah, and, obviously me and Sam, and I think Harry will be with us for that one, so looking forward to getting down to it. And we'll definitely be urging people, I think, to get down and support these type of shows. And really, the fighters really need this level, I think, more than most, that backing and support. And as we've seen on Saturday, it's such an entertaining night. I don't know if you're a fan of boxing, why you won't want to get to these type of nights.
Yeah, exactly. Richie said it in an interview with you on Saturday on the ramp on the stage. You know, the real fans of boxing are the ones that come and sit in the small hall shows and experience what's going on. Like he said, you can go and pay £40 for a ticket in the Gods, in the Principality Stadium or in Wembley Stadium and watch the AJ fight on a big screen. But why not pay £40 to come and near enough be ringside and watch everything go on in the small hall shows and support these fighters? Because the truth of the matter is that no fighter on a small hall show is making much money. You know, these fighters on the big platforms, yeah, they make a lot of money, you know, like the likes of Joshua and things like that. But a lot of the time, the road up is very, very hard for these fighters, and it takes a lot of time and effort and determination and commitment for these fighters to do what they do. And without the backing of the fans, they're going to end up doing it for free, you know. And that you don't want that, you know. They need to make something out of it, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And one other thing for me that I saw earlier today, Brandon Scott, obviously someone that was there at the Brangwyn Hall Garden, someone you've worked with quite closely. He's talking about he had an issue with his hand recently, and how scary is it a prospect that he's been fighting at whatever 50% of his ability, and obviously we'll see him on the Jordan Gills Alpha Barrett card. How good is he as sort of a poster boy for Welsh boxing of where you can start and where you can go, and obviously where do you see Brandon able to go?
You know, Brandon's story is so inspirational, isn't it? Let's be honest. He's told it many a times now, and it's pointless me trying to tell it because I couldn't tell it as good as he does. You know, it's very documented that he went through bullying and things in school, and obviously he's got Tourette's and ADHD, and he's been on numerous podcasts and told that story. You know, he's been on a dedicated ADHD podcast. He's been on the George Groves podcast. You know, and he's told his story many a times in interviews. But what a fantastic kid Brandon is. You know, he's 20 years old. You know, he's motivational. You know, he's a role model. He gives a lot back to kids. You know, he's turned down tickets to watch Katie Taylor in the first fight to come home to be Spider-Man at a kids' party because they buy tickets at his fights. You know, not many 20-year-olds would do that. You know, the way he got his matchroom contract by flying across to Ireland and running around like Forrest Gump and all them sort of things. You know, he's a fantastic kid, but he's very, very talented. He lives and breathes the sport of boxing. You know, that's his job. You know, ever since he turned around and said, I'm going to go pro, Brandon has done it. You know, he's been pro since 18. He's trained by Gavin Rees. You know, they've got a great partnership together. He's managed by Lee Eaton, one of the fantastic managers, and obviously brilliant at what he does. You know, and he's smashing it. You know, and he's now had his hand operation. He had a setback. You know, he's been boxing the way he's been boxing with one hand, but now he's got two hands. And as he said, don't judge me on my last performances. Judge me on this one. You know, he said it in the press conference that he was in today. Judge me on this one. Don't judge me on what my gimmick is outside the ring. Judge me what I do inside the ring. And he's going for it. You know, he's got two hands now. He's got one knockout on his record with one hand. Imagine what he's going to do with two. You know, he's a special kid who's going to win titles. And like Eddie said himself today in the press conference, you know, build up towards the end of the year at titles. He'll win titles, and he could be very much another Welsh world champion, 100%. I believe he will anyway. But, you know, this is the sport of boxing. Anything can happen.
Yeah, we had a chance to chat with him quickly Saturday night whilst he was down there. And he's just such a likeable character. And he's, I think he's a bit of a breath of fresh air for boxing and Welsh boxing in particular. He's got a sort of personality that we haven't really seen before. And he comes across so well. But even when speaking to him, like, I think if you didn't really know him and his backstory and have seen him fight before, you probably wouldn't expect it from him, to be honest.
Yeah, of course. So you wouldn't look at him and take a look at him.
Yeah, but he's obviously such a dangerous and talented fighter. And obviously only have done that with one hand now that he's got that surgery out of the way. And he's fighting in the April card with Matchroom. Yeah, I think we're looking forward to seeing him back in the ring and seeing how his career progresses.
You know, when Brandon's sponsored by Venom, and now he's got the Venom back in his punches. You know, now he's got two hands. So, you know, it's time for him to go to work and show what he can do. You know, it'll be his first fight under Venom as well. You know, he's done a lot of things while he's been out injured with Venom. He's been to Paris and things like that. But, you know, this will be the first time he'll be wearing the logo and the kit of Venom under the bright lights. And it's time for him to show Venom what he can do and show the world of boxing what he can do with two hands. And I have no doubt and no disbelief that he'll do it. You know, he'll 100% do it. I believe him on all the way.
Well, thank you. I think, you know, that just about wraps up. We could sit here all evening, but as I said in our break, we'll save some time so that we can have a dedicated episode with yourself and talk about matchmaking and boxing and some of the stuff you've done. But thank you once again for your time, and obviously we'll see you in the end of April in Llanelli, and I'm sure we'll see you'll be sick of us by the end of this year. You'll never see the back of us.
No, it's fine. To me, you guys are welcome to every single show we do. You know, and if whatever else, you know, keep in touch. You know, we'll always chat. You know, it's great to see guys here doing what you're doing. You know, it's good for the sport. It's good to bring light on Welsh boxing, and can't thank you enough for coming down and giving light on the show on Saturday night. Really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Yeah, cheers for that. Thank you very much.